it's been a long few weeks between paddles and getting out on the water. La Nina's finally broken in Queensland, or southern Queensland. So the rain's finally stopped, but got myself back out onto the lake here north of Brisbane. The estuaries and rivers, as you can imagine, are still just full of debris and mud and so forth. So I've come a fair way north, just looking for a lake here that I'm hoping won't be as bad. And certainly there's a lot clearer on the surface than the last place I was at, that's for sure. But the wind, unfortunately, is quite strong today. So we're getting a few whitecaps on the lake. It's probably 30 kilometres an hour they're suggesting. I reckon we're probably getting gusts of about 40. It makes for slow paddling, but I gotta tell you, just rapt to be out here again. It's just been too long cooped up at home trying to do videos of other things like setting up this canoe for fishing, etc. So yeah, just brilliant to be back out in the canoe. Very slow going. I've come into the bank here. One thing I've learnt watching the boys up north in the northern hemisphere is we're getting whitecaps out on the lake, stay close to the banks of the lake. So I'm doing that, and it's a little bit easier paddling here. But it's pretty wild going. So I've got a place marked on Gaia, but I'm only doing about 2 kilometres an hour, and it's at least another hour or more away. And we've only got about another 2 or 3 hours of light. So there's a little bay just in front of me here. So I can see a bunch of rocks and a little bit of flat water and a nice grassy area. So I'm just going to pull into here, have a look at this one first, see if this is any good, and if it is, this will do for the night. As I've always said, it's no use paddling past a fantastic campsite in the hope that the one you've got marked on a map is going to be better. I just can't see that it's going to be that case. But the other thing about this is, I said it's in the leeward side of a bunch of rocks here and so forth. Nice flat grassy area, so let's have a look at this, and I'll show you once I get on the bank. So there's the little sheltered cove I found. Actually, it looks really nice. We'll head in here and have a look for a flat spot. As I said, lovely flat grass. Nice and sandy down in the water. Ah, yes, there's a fire pit. Someone's had a fire down here, hence the firewood stacked up there. A little bit of a lean slope coming down here, but that's okay. Lots of firewood sitting around. Yeah, this is going to be absolutely brilliant. And what about you? Lovely. You can see just in the water here just how much quieter is on the water compared to about out further. So we're in a nice little leeway here out of the wind. So as always, we've found ourselves a cracking camp spot, guys. Very, very happy with this. So I think we just set the camp up. It's now 10 to 2. It'll work out really nice. Might make you my cup of tea. Get a bit of firewood stacked up and so forth. And then we can get out and do a bit of fishing. There's actually some good fishing just off the shoreline here as well. There's some trees out in the water where the water's flooded up over the trees and so forth. There's got to be bass sitting in there, you would have thought. And as I said, we'll set the red claw trap up as well and get ourselves organised. I have to say, this time of the year is certainly the best time of the year for camping. Just love this cooler weather. Not sitting here sweating, getting sunburned or anything like that. You can literally just relax, enjoy the sunshine. No mosquitoes, no midges, just beautiful. Cheers, guys. Just on 3:30 now, so we've got about an hour and a half of light left, so just gonna relax now, have this beer, sit back and watch the water for half an hour or so. And then there's a few trees that have been flooded here as the water's come up, and I'm just going to get out there and flick some lures around that. Try out this new fishing outfit of mine, which will be nice. Nice to have a rod holder and all that sort of stuff, and the gear hanging down between my legs, which will be good, the actual tackle and so forth. Fishing tackle, that is. Yeah, anyway, see if we can drum up some bass. And then about, 4 o'clock or 5:30, We'll pull the trap up, see if we've got any red claw as well, and we'll make for a very, very nice dinner. If we can catch a bass and some red claw, we'll have ourselves a freshwater feast. So anyway, I'm just going to relax for the moment. Ten past 4, let's have a look, eh? Nope, absolutely nothing. Well, it's just almost 4:30 now, so the wind's just easing up a little bit. We've got about an hour of light left, so I'm just going to get out to these trees I was telling you about. And put this lure around, see if we can catch some dinner. No luck with the red claw, might be too stirred up for them, I'm not sure, but just going to work down this bank here, flick in, see if we can't drag out something for dinner. That certainly would be nice. Well, there's certainly lovely and peaceful out here now. Fortunately, the wind has stirred up the top sort of metre of water, I suppose. Well, unfortunately, it's just too choppy out here. It's blowing around all over the place. Might just go back to the camp, jump out of the canoe, maybe just go along the bank and around the rock face and so forth. Let's have a flick out that way. It's yeah, really quite murky and choppy out here, so not the best conditions for fishing. Lovely and cool, liking that. The water's a nice temperature, but it's getting blown all over the countryside, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, the fishing was a blowout. The wind has just not eased up at all, unfortunately. But it was a beautiful evening here in this little pocket, out of the wind. Really, really lovely. I sit by the fire for a little bit, watch the sun go down, and cook up a hamburger. Just got a nice easy burger tonight with a bit of mushrooms and so forth, which will be very nice. I did check the roll this time, so the roll's fine. It's been in the freezer, so it's all good. So yeah, really looking forward to that actually. Really nice. But for the moment, just going to kick back and relax. what I was trying to make in the last camping trip. Absolutely delicious. Can't beat cooking on an open fire or a little wooden stove, I must admit. Unfortunately, the wind hasn't let up. I thought it might cool off or slow down this time of the night once it got dark, but it's still blowing a gale out there. So I'm just going to sit back in front of this nice warm fire, eat this burger, finish off my beer, and I'll come back to you good folk probably a bit later on once I'm making a cup of tea. I'll talk to you then. Well, this is what I've been waiting for, folks. Cooler night so that we can have a campfire. It would appear watching the smoke on the fire here, it's starting to swirl around a little bit, which means the breeze is starting to drop off. Fingers crossed it hangs in there for the morning and it's nice and still in the morning. We can actually get out and grab some bass for breakfast, which will be lovely. If not, there's a couple of coves across the other side of the lake. I can either punch across to there and get into there. But if it is calm enough, I wouldn't mind actually going right up behind me here. It goes right around a point and then back down into a creek. And there's a whole lot of dead trees in the water there, and I reckon that'd have to be full block of bass. So anyway, we'll see how we go in the morning. But yeah, normally it's just blowing behind me all afternoon. But just every now and then it stops and sort of swirls around, which means the wind might be starting to either slow down or change. Either way would be fantastic. But so happy to get out in a cold night with a campfire. Summertime is lovely. It's great to be able to get out and have the longer days and so forth. But in the subtropics, of course, that means a whole lot of humidity, so it's not as enjoyable as getting out into the autumn and the winter in Queensland. It's the best time of year for camping. So really I'm looking forward to the next few months. I'm really hoping the wind will start to die off. That's also very unusual for this time of the year. But I'm thinking that's probably just the tail end of the La Nina. There's some blustery wind and so forth on the back of all the storms and floods we've been having. So anyway, great to finally get a campfire again and be able to sit in front of it, enjoy it without sweating, and be able to be warm again in front of a campfire. So I'm just going to enjoy this and catch up with you good folk in the morning. Well, we got what we asked for, and that was for a snobby still morning. Almost 8 AM and the fog's still sitting pretty thick on the water. Just waiting for this fire to go down a little bit. I'll rig the canoe up and head out. Thinking I will go around to that set of trees around the other side of the inlet in that little creek. Beautiful paddling conditions, so I might as well head down there while we can. And if it blows up, then we'll get a tailwind on the way back, which would be great. Pretty restless night overnight. Need to upgrade my sleeping bag. Got down to about 4 or 5 degrees and my sleeping bag's plus 10 degrees, so it wasn't nearly warm enough. So as I was discussing with my younger brother Steve, might be time this year to upgrade to a nice down sleeping bag, probably a mummy style one that goes down to about -5, something like that. Comfort level about 0. And that way I'll be nice and warm and get a good night's sleep. But other than that, can't complain. As I said, we requested a still morning, and that's exactly what we've got. So fingers crossed we can get some bass. I'll check the trap before we go as well, see if there's any red claw in there. And if there is, we'll probably just leave them in the trap until we get back, and then we'll cook up ourselves some, a nice morning tea or lunch. Fog just starting to lift now, which is nice. New fishing rig's perfect. I can just see the wobble of the lure on the end of the tip of the rod. So that's brilliant. Happy with that. Much better than tucked under the old leg, I can tell you. You can tell if the lure's working properly or tangled up and so forth. So we'll head down to these trees and this little creek as I suggested, and see if we can get some bass in amongst the trees, which is where they would normally be, and see how we get on. Change of plan. It's going to take too long to get down to these trees, which means it'll then be too late in the morning for fishing. So what I'm going to do instead of flooded trees just here in front of me, I'm just going to pull up here and flick in amongst those, see if there's any bass sneaking around in under the shallows and underneath the branches, etc. I think that's going to be our best bet this morning, rather than, as I said, travelling half an hour or more just to get to some other trees. So we'll have a flick here and see how we get on. You would have to think there'd be bass in here, wouldn't you? All these submerged trees, the food dropping in all over the place. Perfect cover from the birds. Feel the lure hitting snags on the bottom. Lost one yesterday doing exactly that, so very cautious about losing another lure, I can tell you. Well, no joy in here. I'll sneak down along around this rock face here and have a look. Just saw a little bait fish jump out of the water then. That's a good sign. Just out in front of me here. Early lunch. Well, not a thing, unfortunately. I thought these trees would have bass under them. The water's still pretty murky, but and so you think there'd be something rising. As I said, I've seen bait fish jumping around, lots of cranes, which means there are a lot of bait fish in the water. A lot of these bass are fat and full, not biting. Well, once again, we're just too late in the morning. Unfortunately, with the fog, it was a slow morning. So anyway, gonna head back around this point here and see if we can find somewhere else to flick a few lures into. Well, by now you're probably sick of hearing about autumn weather and what it's supposed to be like, and La Nina and everything else. Well, this is it. Absolutely stunning day, no wind, about 22 degrees. So this is what I've been waiting for. These conditions, just beautiful. Not a thing, bugger. As I was pulling out of camp, there's a couple of guys parked up in a tinny, a couple of local blokes. And you wouldn't believe it, one just pulled out a 40 centimetre bass right in front of my eyes, right in front of my camp. It's like, that just does your head in, that sort of stuff. But interesting enough, they were using bait, so that's all they caught this weekend. One of the other guys that didn't catch a fish was saying that before the dam filled up, you come out and catch 20-30 bass easy, no problem at all. And he said, but since the floods and the dam itself is filled up, gone right off the bite, really difficult to get one, and they were pretty happy to get that one bass. So, well, we've got ourselves something here. Let's have a look. Hopefully something of size. Come on. Ooh, putting up a good fight. Oh, just a little bass. Come on, little. It's this little guy. That's a start, I suppose. Come out to the middle of the actual lake itself rather than scooping along the banks, because I'm seeing the baitfish out there and the cormorants out there. So we'll give that a go. And see if that works for us. Well, we're heading back to civilization now, unfortunately. Didn't want to come back to this lake. It's really, really lovely lake. A little bit further out, there's a lot of campers in caravans. Unfortunately, you do have the tinnies and the boats, and because you're allowed to have boats on this lake, I do seem to be congregating out this way. So, but it's a lovely lake. But 4-hour drive is definitely a 2-nighter job. It's just too far to drive. You're literally losing a day just travelling. So you need to be able to get a lot more time on the water to be catching the fish and so forth. So we will leave it on Gaia as marked as a good camp spot for the future reference, and head back here later in the year potentially, maybe around springtime or something, when the lake's starting to drop back down again and the fish are back on the bite. But for now, I'm going to sign off for this week. Thank you all for coming along for this adventure. Really lovely spot, really lovely camp spot, and as I said, a perfect lake. Thank you for all those who have watched through to the end. Really appreciate that, guys. And I'll see you all in a fortnight's time. Bye for now.